Welcome back to another episode of the Civil War era music mini-series. My name is Emily Jumba, and I'm a fellow here at the Civil War Institute. I'm also a violinist in the Gettysburg College Sunderman Conservatory Symphony Orchestra. Today, we're going to be exploring the role of sheet music during the Civil War era. First, we're going to begin by examining the process of lithography, which was used to produce sheet music during the Civil War era. And then we're going to transition into looking at sheet music's role in advertisement during the Civil War era. So, to get us started, let's look at lithography. So, lithography was invented in France in 1796, although it did not become popular in printing until the 1820s. And then it didn't become popular in printing sheet music until even later, until the 1840s. This is in part due to the process of chromolithography not being invented until the 1840s. So, chromolithography is a process that's very similar to regular lithography, except it allows you to use multicolored inks whenever you're creating your image. And that's beneficial for sheet music because it allows you to create a colored picture on your cover for your music. So let's talk a little bit about how the process of lithography works. If you're starting from scratch, you're going to want to take a flat stone or metal plate, and you're going to use an oil-based ink to draw your image on it. And whenever you draw this image, you're going to want to do it in reverse because whenever you go and put the paper on, eventually it's going to reverse the image when you put the ink on it. So you draw your image first, and then you rub powdered rosin and talc on it. So this combination is acidic, and it's going to help to burn your design into your stone or piece of metal. And that's going to help it stick whenever you go through the later processes. And so next you're going to be adding gum arabic to it to help set the image into the stone further. And it's going to waterproof the blank areas because gum arabic, it's water soluble, and it's going to repel the acid that you originally used with the rosin and talc. So once the rest of the stone is waterproof, so that way ink won't stick to it and you'll be able to create a fine picture, then you use a solvent to wipe all of that off of your plate. And then once that's wiped off, and then you can take asphaltum to set the image to make sure that it's completely there and ready to go for making your lithographs, and that you'll be able to reuse it for many of them. So once you have your actual plate created, then you could go about making a lithograph. So first you coat it in water, and then you're going to coat again over top of the water your plate with ink, and you're going to use a roller to do this. It kind of looks like a rolling pin. And then after you have it full of ink, you're going to lay a piece of paper over top of it, and then you're going to take a wooden bar and you're going to rub that up and down the piece of paper, so that way whenever the ink goes onto it, it's spread evenly and you don't have clumps at one end and then hardly any ink on the other end of the paper, and to make sure it's nice and even. So once you've rubbed the bar back and forth on the piece of paper, you can take off the bar and then you can peel up your piece of paper, and you're going to find a reverse of the image that you had originally created on your plate. And now that you have your plate and you've made your first lithograph, you can keep using it to mass produce whatever you had created your image to be. So in this case, sheet music. And so that's what they did starting in the 1840s. They started to mass produce sheet music using lithographs and occasionally the chromolithographs as they added in the colored covers. So now we're going to make a brief transition, and we're going to be looking at the role of sheet music in advertising during the Civil War era. And now that sheet music is being mass produced, it's able to play a greater role in advertising. So it became part of the commercial world, and it was sold via advertisements that you'll see in newspapers, as well as being used to advertise other products. So for example, it could be ordered in a newspaper ad, kind of similar to a mail order catalog. And an example of this is in the Westerly Echo and Pawcatuck Advertiser, which was a newspaper in Rhode Island. And on July 26, in 1855, there was an advertisement posted by D.W. Hammond, and he was selling new and popular sheet music for sale. And he posted that in 1855, and you'll see similar posts happening in newspapers up through the rest of the Civil War era. And for example, another one is from the Watertown Republican, which was based out of Wisconsin. And this advertisement was posted on April 18th in 1862. And this particular ad hawked both melodeons and sheet music for sale at a cheap price. And it also advertised the services of one Emil C. Gabler. And his services were in tuning the piano, melodeon, organ, and accordion. He also included in this advertisement that he had recently opened up a new shop in town, and that if people didn't want to write into the paper to receive sheet music from him, then he would be happy to sell it to them at his store in person. So, with these songs that were being sold through the newspaper, you're going to see in some cases that the sheet music itself was trying to sell ideas, especially earlier in the Civil War era. And so some of these ideas that would be being sold via the sheet music is abolition, temperance, and patriotism. So, for example, in song that shows abolitionist sentiments is Get Off the Tracks, and this is a piece by the Hutchinson Family Singers, and they published it in 1844, so pretty early on in the Civil War era. And so all of the text that is in this image connects back to the ideas of voting and abolition. So you're going to see near the front of the picture there's two trains. One of them is labeled Liberty Votes and Ballot Boxes, and this train is pushing another one in front of it, which is labeled as Immediate Emancipation. And if you look at the wheels of that front train, they are labeled as the Liberator, which is a reference to William Lloyd Garrison's abolitionist newspaper. And so you're going to be seeing the voting and ballot boxes pushing immediate emancipation into the train station, which is representative of the power of the votes of people to be able to push abolition through Congress and get it passed. And you're going to be seeing in the foreground of the image a lot of very well-dressed gentlemen sprinting to hop aboard the trains to show that it would be in style to join on the train of abolition and try to push that through Congress. So you're going to be seeing during the Civil War era that political agendas were tied into music, and it's showing that the debate over slavery was extended beyond the government's realm and into popular culture as well. So now I'm going to be playing for you Get Off the Track by the Hutchinson Family Singers. So this piece did have the political leanings to it, and as we advance through the Civil War era, we're going to be seeing that sheet music is not only going to be selling ideologies, but it's also going to be spreading to try to attempt to sell at least material items as well. So we'll see during the Civil War, sheet music is attempting to advertise for other pieces of sheet music, for instruments, for music lesson books, and other items that are related in some way to music. So this was made possible due to the introduction of lithography and chromolithography and being able to mass produce the pieces, but then also being able to have covers that are quite detailed for these images, and we're going to be seeing these used to advertise for other songs. So an example of a piece that does advertise for other pieces of music, instruments, and books is the song Tramp, 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 The Prisoner's Hope. And so this piece was written by George F. Root and published in 1864. So now we're into the Civil War, and you're going to be seeing on the cover of this song, the title of it, centered large in an oval, and it's surrounded by a decorative frame. It has flowers on it, but you're also going to be seeing advertisements for 5 other pieces by George Root. So in the uppermost left corner, there's going to be an advertisement for within sound of the enemy's guns. And so this particular picture is showing a soldier gazing stoically off into the distance at his post, possibly on guard at a camp or something like that. And then moving clockwise, at the top center of the page, there's an advertisement for the vacant chair, where there is a family seated around a dining room table, except there is an empty chair there. And it's showing how the soldiers went off to fight nobly in battle, and they gave the greatest sacrifice for their countries, and now there is an empty chair left back at home, and their families are mourning them. And continuing along that similar theme of showing mourning, the next image is for the silent lute. And as you're going through all these pictures, you're going to notice that each one has a caption with the song's title beneath it, just to make sure that the readers get the message of which songs are being advertised. And so for the silent lute, you'll see a woman kneeling at a grave, presumably a soldier's grave. And it's hopping on the idea of the good death, and it's showing that the soldier, even though he may have died in battle, he probably died heroically, and whenever he was buried back at home, and since his remains were known, that his possibly wife or mother or other female relative was there to mourn him and to remember his sacrifice that he gave for his country and his family. And so then continuing around the circle, you're going to be seeing who'll save the enemy's guns, and or who'll save the left, I'm sorry. And that particular picture also shows some soldiers in it, similar to the first one we looked at. And then the last one is Battle Cry of Freedom, where you see soldiers firing a cannon, and it's organized and kind of showing the Civil War ideas of what battle might be like, and not really showing the reality of what war was and the violence and chaos of it. And so just on the very cover of this song, you're seeing advertisements for 5 other pieces, and ironically enough, you're not actually seeing an image for Tramp, Tramp, Tramp itself. So you're going to turn the page, thinking you're going to find your sheet music now, but instead there's another title page. And so on this title page, of course, it has the title Tramp, 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 but it also includes another advertisement, this one for the sequel to the song, and the sequel is called On, The Boys Came Marching, and it advertises for that piece, and it was charging 30 cents for it. So then you turn the page again to the third page of the little booklet that you purchased with your sheet music, and on this third page, you're going to be finding a advertisement for cabinet organs, which is a musical instrument that kind of resembles a piano. And finally, on the fourth page of the 7-page document is the beginning of the actual sheet music itself, which will only last for 3 pages, because at the end there is a back cover, and the back cover of this piece is one more advertisement. This is for a book that could be used for students' music lessons, and this book was also written by George Root. So within this one piece of music that will be purchased by someone, you're going to be getting the advertisements for 6 other songs, 1 type of instrument, and also 1 lesson book, and then 3 pages of sheet music. So you're going to be seeing a greater presence of advertising within the sheet music little packets that you get during the Civil War itself. And so now I'm going to be playing for you Tramp, 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 The Prisoner's Hope. So that was Tramp, Tramp, Tramp. And so both of these songs that I've played for you today are indicating beyond their deeper messages that they try to convey, music's direct ties into the capitalist nature of the Civil War era economy. And the prices of the music are listed within each packet of sheet music, and so we can see that prices of music did change over the course of the Civil War era. In 1844, Get Off the Track, which was published again by the Hutchinson Family Singers, was 25 cents. And if you account for inflation today, that's around $10.03. So then we fast forward 20 years into the midst of the Civil War, and Tramp, Tramp, Tramp was worth 30 cents. And so that's about $5.75 today. So we're going to be seeing that the price of sheet music during the Civil War era is going down, probably because of the mass production of it, and it's becoming less expensive, more affordable for people to buy. Although still during the Civil War itself, music was part of culture that was at least sheet music itself, was most oftenly consumed by the middle and upper classes, in part because the sheet music was often performed using quite large instruments such as pianos and the mellotons and the organs. And so those are quite expensive to purchase. But then in addition to that, the sheet music itself, while the prices are going down, is still rather expensive if you go and added up the cost for each piece of music that you're going to buy. And if you don't know how to play an instrument and you're buying the book and you need to learn, and then you're going to have to buy the songs on top of that and the instrument, it's also going to be quite pricey, as the books themselves are relatively expensive. The one that was advertised in Tramp, Tramp, Tramp cost $4.50, and that's about $86.23 today in 2023. So it wasn't a cheap cultural practice to be involved in, but we're going to be seeing during the Civil War era that music did change, at least the production of sheet music. So as it's being mass produced and becoming slightly more accessible, you're going to be seeing the prices going down for it, but you're going to be seeing an increase in advertisements going into that sheet music. So I would like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video today, and I'll see you next time.